Okay. Okay, welcome everyone. Today we are doing a session in Dynamics 365 user group for India on the topic of using Azure integration tools to build integrations for Dynamics 365 Finance and Operations platform. This is 14th session of this group. Just a quick disclaimer before we move forward that the views expressed are from the speakers based on their experience. It does not represent the view of their employers or Microsoft. We are using trial environments for these sessions, and the session is being recorded on Teams and will be available on our YouTube channel. So if you do not wish to be a part of a recorded session, then now is a good time to disconnect. In next 1 hour, we will do a quick group introduction. Then I will hand it over to Manish for his session, and then I will also share what's coming next in our group. A quick summary of how you can join us. So we are a user group based on and focused on Microsoft Dynamics 365. Our objective is to connect with the Dynamics 365 professionals, learn from each other, and grow together. This group was launched last year in June, and we have almost 645 people who have joined us on LinkedIn and other various platforms. So thanks everyone for joining, and you can see QR codes of our groups. You can scan them and join us and be a part of this journey. A quick summary of sessions we have done till date. So as I mentioned, we started last year in July. We are getting good support from Microsoft Architect. Sunil has been a constant supporter of this group and has been talking a lot on Dataverse and platform convergence features which are coming up. As you can see, we have done around 13 sessions till date, and today we are doing the 14th session. What you see on the screen are the group volunteers who are connected and working hard to drive this group forward. If you have any questions regarding the group, you can feel free to reach out to any one of us. We are there on our LinkedIn channel. You can just search us by our names. So today's session is about how to reimagine integrations using Azure integration framework and tools for Dynamics 365 Finance and Operations, presented by Manish Singh. Manish, thanks for joining us from Sweden. And I will hand it over to Manish now. Manish, over to you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Ruchit, for the opportunity, and thank you, Mesh, for recommending this because I mean we go through many things every day in our life, and sometimes we take a lot of decisions also, but at the same time, it is always good to have a kind of discussions like this, wherein basically I look out of my closed zone so that I can understand what to do and things like that. So for me also, it will be good session from that point of view. I'm just looking for sharing button, Richit. I can't get it. Okay, now I get it. 1 second. So I have a PPT to share. Just yes. So uh, about me, that is what was told. I just make a little bit of fiery picture, but this was something taken in Malmo. This is Sweden part. So I mean, I just took that picture at that time. What I do today, I'm a product owner and also product architect. I'm a product owner for Dynamics integrations in Scania, and I'm a product architect for CRM. So it's kind of dual role for me today. When I say Dynamics, so it is FNO, CRM, and other things, and I represent a team which is called Center of Excellence in Scania. So the job is basically to work on the best practices and to align and things like that. And we are doing a global rollout, which is basically more than 55 markets. The project has a lot of dynamics components and things. So that is what I'm doing. Overall, I have 16 plus years of experience. I started my career from business development. That was my start in Dynamics. And then basically I turned into project management and then solution architect, then lead solution architect, and now product owner. I have seen both the sides. I have worked as a vendor also, and I have worked as a customer also. So, and I have seen end-to-end ERP life cycle. So from the point of view that each stage and each delivery, how it works and things like that, at least I have exposure from. Prior to joining Scania Group, I was working with Sigma, which is again now it is called Nexer in Sweden. Before that, I was in KPMG, 2.5 years plus, and I was again into Dynamics. And before that, I was in Magic Global, and Creative was one software company wherein we were selling payroll, SaaS-based payroll, and things like that. So basically, this has been my journey. Application point of view, I'm deep into what do you say, functional side, CRM and HR and supply chain and finance. But on the technical side, also I have exposure in terms of deep understanding of ALM, and obviously working on ALM, you get exposed to multiple areas. So that is how I work basically. So when I took the responsibility, which is not very old, which is basically a product owner for integration. So our job is to deliver a global integration platform, basically, which can support all kind of integration, which could be like from old to new technologies. And this is what has been given a challenge. And as we were discussing just before the call start, that there's a lot of skill changes and things are happening on the ground. So when I get into this area, I felt the same, because we have been closely working on Dynamics, but when you again get into Azure, then there is another landscape. Then you have to understand the whole thing. So I mean, I just would like to share my experiences. Uh, for me today, what I have come up with more like overall structuring in the mind, that how when we see the integration in Azure, how do we see? Obviously, there are some use cases and all, but today I'm not going to demo anything. But I will be presenting overall understanding, which gives kind of glimpse that how do you plan yourself when you are thinking about Azure integration along with Dynamics, and what kind of aspect and things you have to look at and things like that. So that's what is the discussion topic, reimagining integration using Azure integration tool for Microsoft Dynamics 365 Finance and Operation. Going to the next. Yeah, I mean, the business is depending on all kind of application as we are working. So basically, when it is not only FNO which can alone serve the purpose, so it has to connect with multiple application to give the value, and that is why integration is very important. That when you want to give realization of application, then basically you have to connect them all, and that is where the integration becomes very important. So the finance and supply chain, or any module which we implement in the market, will not be fully giving value provided it is connecting with the other application, other landscapes and things like that. So the value of integration is not something which is unknown to us, but I mean, we have to visualize the picture, that the complete picture is not FNO, it is along with integration, then only it makes sense for anyone. When we look at integration scenarios, I mean, we come across application to application, we come across business to business, we come across software as a service, SaaS, IoT. So I mean, when we say business to business, just to be clarified, it is more from the angle of that supply chain management, connecting to other businesses and things like that, wherein you want to achieve the whole cycle. So basically, if you have to achieve the whole cycle, you have to connect business to business also in some scenario. And rest, you are very clear about IoT and application to application and basically SaaS situations. So visualizing integration in entirely will be possible if you look at these things. What Microsoft brings into this space. So if we see these pictures basically which Microsoft produces, this is more like telling about the different layers, what they are looking at and what they are thinking about and things like that. So basically, the foundation is Azure, and everything comes from there. And then thereafter, we have productivity tools. We have the what you say, no code, low code, data models, data services, and then we have application. So applications are definitely the facing part, but at the end, it has to be supported by different capabilities which exist into the overall ecosystem, and that is where Azure becomes very important. The problem for us, like who are working at this space, we go deep, maybe till here, we are still learning these things. And meanwhile, when we touch the integration, and if we want to use Azure integration, then we have to get into this layer also. And that is where, I mean, I have, at least so far, I'm experiencing a lot of challenges, which I can highlight maybe to all of you and things like that. Then thinking about the integration, if we go from integration point of view, we look at scenarios, which is basically the capabilities what Microsoft provides. So one is obviously for the business user. If you have Microsoft Flow, knowledge little bit with the business user, they can do little integration, but that is more from what you say, their own workflow benefit and things like that. But in some enterprise scenario also, we see that there are flows which has been configured, but I mean, it is more made for people who are not close to technology in terms of coding and other things. For the integration specialist, the things goes further detailed, wherein we have many tools, Azure Integration Services, BizTalk, and there are gateways and things like that. So that is the way the specialists are seen. And if we go down, then comes the developer part, wherein the code thing like DevOps, Visual Studio, and this kind of coding comes in picture. So looking at the integration from these different direction, that is what was the purpose of showing you this particular slide. Um, as I mentioned, that integration is the key. So I mean, when we look at the integration, what we look at APIs, we look at workflow, we look at messages, we look at events. So I mean, that is how we have to think that these capabilities we have to be well versed with, so that we can deal with integration. That is how I see. There are challenges. I mean, we come across multiple APIs wherein applications are able to connect, but they have a multiple way of connecting. We come across data sources and formats, which are basically multiple way and multiple type. We come with the service-oriented and distributed part, and then basically there are situations wherein on-premise and on-cloud and this kind of challenges are also there. So these are when we go for global big implementation integration. I mean, if it is a small setup and things like that, maybe we will not have all the challenges. But I mean, looking overall, this is very common that we will have all kind of challenges what we are talking here about so far. So far, any question about introducing the topic, or it is very clear to all of you?
Hey Manish, just one question, in fact, from my side only is you mentioned about tools like BizTalk Server. Uh,
Mm.
how are these tools now being compared with low code, no code tools which have been introduced like Logic Apps or Power Automate? Is there still a segment or a place where BizTalk is used, or is this being replaced by Power Platform?
Yeah, very good question. I see it is replaced. I see that people are not looking BizTalk. Obviously, I hear that there is a new version come up and things like that. But the way Microsoft is also pushing to customers and the consultants and competencies which are available in the market. So let's see that we have a Dynamics team, and the job is to deliver implementation of Dynamics. Obviously, BizTalk, we have to then build a different team and different competency and things like that. So getting into the whole setup nowadays, people are very much skeptic that, okay, should I get into the BizTalk and things like that, rather than can I achieve using Logic App, using Azure Function and these things. So the choice is more towards the low code, no code, and what you say, PaaS platform as a service. People don't want to get into more responsibility area when it comes to integrations right now, the way I see today.
Okay, thanks, Manish. There are no questions in the chat window at the moment, so feel free to proceed. Yeah.
Yeah. Then when we think about integration, the first thing comes about the architecture thinking. So, I mean, I was just looking at the scenario, what we go through and things like that. I try to put some pictures. So, the landscape is changing. So, I mean, we have been in monolithic situations wherein everything is together like a strong rock, and any change you have to make, you have to be basically everything depend on each other. And that was the situation. Then service-oriented architecture was the next step, wherein it is more like, okay, things are separated, but still there will be common database, something, there will be a common control somewhere. Still, it is separated, but there is some common things. And then the final, which I mean, it is not very new, but microservices exist from very long time, but still people are doing it. So, I mean, that is the new way of thinking wherein everything is independent and each services talks to each other and things like that. So this, the architecture landscape is basically evolving. And in integration, that plays very important role as well, because I mean, from on-premise to the cloud, the way things are transforming, that you have to think about these architectures also, because now people are not interested to develop point-to-point integrations. It is more interested that, okay, can I create something which is reusable? For example, can I create a Kafka topic, or can I create an event which I can consume for other application, or can I build an API and publish it at a common API form place, and wherein it can be consumed or it can be published. So that is the thought process which is more into, rather than thinking about that here is the middleware and everything, you go to them and then they do the thing and then it happens. So that is quite changing a lot, and that is what is asking a lot of demand in this area, that okay, you have to think your integration in the same way. So when we look at these changes, what should we think about, the key consideration which should be in the mind while thinking about the architecture, and that is what I try to put it like this. There should be a reusability of these interfaces. There should be business logic uh, uh, information which basically is there, and then basically use standard interfaces, common information models, so everyone can find and things like that. Tracing if someone goes wrong and things like that. I mean, basis on that, you come up with this kind of thought process. So, I mean, basically, when we are looking at integration, this key consideration has to be there basically. And let's take from where the journey start in that. So basically, consider different apps and then the middleware, which was the old way of working. And then these all apps are publishing a lot of information for the consumers. The information is consumed by middleware. This leads point-to-point connections and things like that. The middleware is basically, it is combining the different tools, and then basically it is coming up. And this is like multiple on-prem apps. So this is more like an old way of working. Uh, and this contribute a lot of information, but I mean, that information is not very much in use, and how to best use the data and things like that, that is also not in best use and things like that. So this is like a ground zero wherein we start today, and then we go towards what do you say, hybrid scenario, wherein we have to go towards something which is more what you say, uh, microservices oriented architecture and things like that. But at the same time, we have to go through a hybrid situation wherein all the applications are still not ready to consume or produce APIs or events and things like that. So it's like your current situation should be that you should be able to handle all kind of integration. So it is basically wherein you bring all the components, but same time you have to also think about that this is to address the current need, but same time you have to think about the, you have to move out and basically make it more light, because this is more like very heavy, but it is a part of the journey, because without getting into the habit situation, you cannot get into the final version. So basically, it is a combination of cloud, it is combination of on-prem, it is combination of files, APIs, events, everything. So this is where today I see the way we are in this situation wherein system is other systems still have a lifespan of 5 years, 10 years, and they are only able to produce files and things like that. So you have to deal with them. And then there is multi-cloud scenarios and things like that. To reach the,
Sorry,
sorry.
Manish, Amit has raised his hand. Amit, you want to say something?
Yeah, so I have been involved in one of the project called Dell. So we implemented ESB architecture using BizTalk, and the
Mhm.
kind of performance needed and kind of transaction number of transactions we were processing was very high. So my
Mhm.
question was, with this new no code, using flows and microservices, so can we achieve that kind of performance level which we used to get with BizTalk?
Very,
Uh,
very, very good question. Yeah. This is the question, or you have more?
Yes. So BizTalk, the reason why we used to choose BizTalk as a middleware was
Mhm.
the performance using the ESB architecture, and the second thing was the monitoring kind of visibility we can get into all the transactions which are being processed by BizTalk and different receiving endpoints.
Absolutely.
So yeah. So do we get these kind of luxury in these new technologies as well?
Yes, absolutely. So answer in a short, yes, but to reach to that, there are efforts to do that. And the way I see today, the way we are designing or we are thinking is more like still we are thinking about geographies when we are, because in low code, no code, the possibility is that I can create a copy of these structures, maybe 2 time or 3 time. So when I'm looking the whole globe and when I'm looking at the whole transaction, I'm still trying to make what you say loosely coupled architecture points so that I can basically control my break and also I can monitor that. And same time, I can also don't compromise with the what you say performance. So Microsoft promises this performance for sure, but still while still we are designing in a way that there could be a regional or what you say geo latency and things like that. So far we have not observed it, but we have still planned in our design basically so that we don't miss that part if it happens in the future. So what you're saying is yes, answer in short, but same time still we have planned ourselves so that we don't get into that situation. And when we discuss with Microsoft also, they also ask about, okay, geolocation. So, I mean, where should be the gateway? Where should be the location of this particular app and things like this, that. So that kind of planning, I see they also raise as a suggestion. So rather than saying no to that, I have taken that in my design consideration actually. So answer is yes, but yeah, you have to still think a little bit so that you are secure. It's like security in the mind that, okay, I'm safe. But thank you for that question. It was a good question.
Thank you.
Thanks, Amit. Yeah, Manish, I think we'll take more questions towards the end. Otherwise, your flow will be disrupted. So
No, no,
happy.
fine. I am loving it because for me also it is always the
Yeah.
same discussion. So I'm kind of liking it actually. So the future step, which is more like what do you say, marketplace, wherein you have a marketplace wherein you can publish, consume APIs, and also events wherein you can publish and consume the events. So all the application you can make more like a DevOps team, so each application can run their application, they can develop their integration and they can maintain. So basically develop and maintain both you can do together and things like that. So you can make more like architecture wherein it is more common usable and same time it is independent also. So that it is not like, okay, if everything is together again, that is a problem. Like, okay, any change affect the other application and things like that. So that is the future step. But to reach to this future step, as I said, the current stage, which is hybrid, we have to cross, and that will take some time. So if I summarize these pictures, what I have shown you, the way I see it is a journey wherein you have to take from left to right. So if you focus on the central, your right part will be easy. Absolutely, we are moving from left, but same time to reach right, we have to be very much planned in the middle because we cannot say that today everyone should be API driven, everyone should be event driven. Generally, this kind of strategies are starting like that. Okay, we will be event driven, but what happens? system and infrastructure is not ready for that. So today we plan for it, but we don't do it from day one. And that is why we have to exist in a hybrid situation, basically. So this was a kind of summary when we are thinking about your overall planning about this particular, what you say, architecture and things like that, the journey which you are taking from where to where and things like that. Let's take maybe example considering FNO in this scenario. So if the app, what we said, apps, we take app one as FNO, and we put some on-prem, which is middleware today, all inbound and outbound and things like that, which comes through that middleware. Then in future, we put a lot of Azure component, which is cloud native and things like that, and we make it DevOps. So it is like that. Basically, it represents that picture wherein I'm saying app one connects with the marketplace in the future, but at the same time, you have your own DevOps team to manage this particular part. That was the picture. So it will look like this. The marketplace, your DevOps team, and basically finance and operation together. This is the way I was trying to visualize. So far, any question on this architecture thinking? Any question so far on this journey?
I see Kishore has his hands up. Kishore, you want
Yeah,
ask
I
a
mean,
question?
yeah, thanks, Manish. I mean, I have a question regarding the error handling side.
Mm-hmm.
So when we are working on the on the Cloud Platform side and integration with our D65 FNO,
Yes.
so we are sending this is actually we are doing a PO automation. So the
Mm-hmm.
client has a, third party application, and through Power Automation, we are sending the POs to D65 for posting.
Mm-hmm.
So what happening is, suppose if we are receiving three POs and let's assume that three are went wrong, and the error message, only the last error message is going to the Power Automation.
Okay. Okay.
So in such case, how do we handle that? I mean, so the other team should know what are all the errors.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So
absolutely.
go ahead, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, the way I see this scenario, I mean, basically what we have done is we are capturing the events. So we basically break this, for example, we may use blob storage, we may use what you say, a logic app in these steps, and basically in the steps when we are basically completing, we still have a possibility to send the logs, and that is where we have Azure monitoring, and top of on Azure monitoring, we are putting a Power BI as well, just to make it more easy to be understood today, the way we see the scenario. And Azure logs are available, so it was easy to build the Azure log. But same time now we are uh, building for some logs which we can capture from dynamic side as well. And the
Correct.
third is we will think about the other application also, which would be in this case any other application where you are talking to. So I mean, it is also something which you have to basically think about these points wherein you can capture the log, and then you have to make out of it something like Power BI report or something wherein you can try out. There are some small tools also. I mean, maybe I will not name. I have used one, but the thing is that they still stay with one platform. They still stay with Azure. They have to develop the other capabilities. So this area of capturing in log is still not fully mature, if I
Yeah,
tell
exactly. You are right. So
the way I see. So I mean,
yeah,
working on it, but the aspiration is same what you said, and we have to do. I mean, without that, it is not possible because we cannot showcase proper.
proper end-to-end communication.
So you are right, and this is we have achieved whatever is available, which is through Azure, but we are working on dynamic side and we are working on other app side so that we can complete the whole thing. So yeah,
Hmm.
I agree with you. We have to solve this.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I mean. Our team basically stuck there, and actually, the other and the from where the integration is happening, they also should know that all the three POs are failed,
Yes.
but they are receiving only the last message, which
Yeah.
D65 is generating from
Yeah.
info
Yeah.
log, and we didn't find any other alternative to send all the three messages.
Now we are trying to combine these messages, but so far I mean when I'm working, I'm also able to achieve the Azure part. I'm working on Dynamics and other areas. So the aspiration is to cover the entire thing, as you said. But right now, whatever is available, we are able to only use that one. So yes, that has
Yeah,
to be done.
there is a constraint is there. I mean, like, okay, I mean, when it is a successful scenario, we are happy. There is
Yeah,
a
yeah.
happy ending. But there is a when there is a I mean, like break. I mean, like it breaks the system. Then the whole communication is not going back to the third party system.
I
So
completely agree with you. I completely agree with. I mean, there is a lot of possibility to send error
mature
messages.
further. Yeah, I
Yeah,
agree.
but they are not complete messages, and that is where the problem is because they can
Correct.
only see part and pieces. So I mean, that is where the problem is. So I mean, I have not seen the tool also which is mature to handle all because, but it is a space. I think maybe some technical person who has some good idea. Even I would like to connect if somebody got some good ideas because I'm also working right now on this particular point as we
Yeah,
speak.
I mean, like if any, I mean, like if you get any solution or any good alternative or a, I mean, like any breakthrough, can you
Hmm.
share it on the YouTube or I mean, like wherever
Yeah,
you are?
absolutely. I will come, and that anyway I have to achieve because I cannot have my whole integration design without that. So that's something which I'm working, and I think soon, not alone, but I mean with the help of other people, we'll be able to break it. But soon I will come back on that. But this is very good question. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks,
So
Manish, for your
Manish, are
time.
you saying that with response and reply option in API, we still
Hmm.
don't get this option for bulk transaction that the response is captured only for the last transaction in the batch? It should happen for each transaction, right? The response and reply scenario that we use in APIs. So Logic Hub has this option. No matter I have 100 orders that are sent in single batch, each
Yes.
order will follow this response and reply option, which captures individual success or error
Yeah. My
for each transaction.
my problem is that still I'm not able to control the whole landscape in this. So I mean, it is like if I'm having whole independence to do this the way I want, then it is possible, as you said. But the problem is that I have a lot of dependency on other things, which are basically stopping me today. But I'm trying to bake it. It is more like what you say, the way your organization structure and application management and everything goes. So what you are saying is right. But same time for me right now, I have little bit of challenges in terms of different. For example, this is handled by different team. This is handled by different team. This is handled by different team. So I'm trying to make something together. That is what I'm looking forward actually.
And I think a lot of things also depend on the business scenario
Yes.
which you are trying to implement with that integration. So if there is a dependency which needs to be handled, then the question rises like, why are you building two integration if the process are tied back to back? I think
Yeah.
what I will also do is we'll create some sort of forum where we can post our scenarios and type of integration solutions we are designing for that, which can help the whole community to have a reference
I-
point.
I'm highly interested to contribute and also listen in. I mean, this is what
Yeah,
we go
let's
day
do
in.
that. Yeah, yeah. I'll
That's really
create something on GitHub. We all can contribute there. But yeah, let's continue and will not disrupt your flow too much.
no,
Yeah.
no, no. Going to the next. So far what we have looked at maybe at a high level architectural thinking and things like that. When it comes to integration capabilities, so I mean, you all are experts, so I will not teach you what is the capabilities, but I will just highlight it. Basically, the capabilities which exist in FNO today. I mean, wherein you have data management platform or data services, and also you have a possibility through custom services. So these capabilities already exist in Dynamics, and it is good. But same time, we have a lot of limitation when we want to do a small integration, it is okay. But when we are doing heavy lifting, then there is an issue. Transformations, files, and things like that. Then system performance will definitely go down. And that is where we have to think something to offload the ERP. And that is where the integration thought has to move towards the Azure, basically. That is what was the reason also to think like this. So in these areas, I mean, obviously Microsoft gives this. There is a lot of tools which you will find in the market where many, what you say, companies has developed in custom services tooling, and they basically give you access wherein you can connect with these tools and things like that. But in my landscape, I mean, the way I see this, all is there, but still it is not complete. It does help, but it does not help when you're looking at huge transactions, multiple scenarios, and what do you say, kind of multi-country rollout and 1,000, 100, 200, 500 integration and things like that. So when it comes to volume scenario, then that is where, I mean, we need to think little beyond Dynamics, and that is where the possibility which exists into Azure. So I mean, this is a picture I got from somewhere. So I mean, it's more like what it shows, that basically there are multiple things available in Azure, and what could be used in different scenarios. So maybe function, express route, logic app, API, data factory. So I mean, there are multiple services which are possible to use. You have, when you're thinking about your integration, it is very easy to be lost in these offerings actually. But I mean, to make a best use of it is something what is, I will say that what is make you saying that yes, you know the Azure integrations, and that is where the whole thing is. This because Microsoft has made this platform for different purposes. They have said that okay, you can use any language while coding and things like that. But I mean, to be more what do you say, having similarity when we are coming from Dynamics FNO background, at least I make sure that C# is the language for any coding what is done in the Azure today, and so that anything which is developed still stays with the same knowledge and skill what teams have and things like that. So this is more to represent that there are multiple options available, and basically you have to choose best what suits to your landscape and things like that. And that is where you do this merger, wherein you combine both the capabilities, and then you face your inbound and outbound scenario. So you put your Dynamics FNO capabilities, Azure capabilities, and then you make a toolbox. And this is the thing. I mean, making this toolbox, you should not restrict yourself again in one fashion or one way. There could be still possibility wherein you can use custom services. So I mean, right now the way I see, I have been still being open on that, but obviously I restrict wherein the decision has to go on the volume, the kind of integration it is, reusability, security, and there are many more components you have to think like that, so that you can choose your right options. And more important for me, that I don't want to create a jungle of integration wherein I use for this in this integration I use Logic App, and the same integration I use other tool and things like that, because it is easy to build in that way, but it is very difficult to support and what you say, maintain those things, because I mean, it's like somebody is comfortable with data lake, he does the integration in data lake, and somebody sorry, in data factory, and somebody is not comfortable with he's comfortable with logic and somebody is comfortable with some other functionality, because many of these tools are overlapping in terms of functionality, but it depends upon what call you are taking, what way. There is a cost factor also, which is generally when we develop we don't get into, but it is very important, because at the end it is increasing your consumption also on the Azure side. So any system or anything what you're developing, if it is giving enough value to the organization, is also important in that particular cost. So I mean, I generally discourage experiments in my landscape, because for me it is good to know, but I don't want to implement, at least if it is basically challenging my design. Somebody has to give me proper reason why he want to bring the new component. So that is the way I see, at least today, when I'm thinking about these capabilities and things like that. Yeah, looking a little bit more towards Azure integration services. So it is basically, as Microsoft says, seamless connection application within your business acceleration time and things like that. So this is more like a sales talk. But the core components which gets used are these. So API management, which we all know that it has basically a capability which is very useful in integration scenario. Logic app. I mean, many people love it, but few people don't like it, because they think like it is not a developer's skill. It is more like, okay, if you know a little bit of technology, you can do. But yes, it has a lot of capability. At least it can orchestrate in a good way, wherein you can achieve your integration in short time and things like that. Then service bus. and event grids. These key components, which at least when we are thinking integration, we are using a lot. And I mean, I see today more in use when it looks towards the integration and things like that. So far, any question?
Yeah, so I have one question. So when we use these Power Apps for Flow and Logic apps, so
Yes.
does it request the information from the primary database, or it goes to some secondary database from the performance perspective?
I mean, when you say primary database, you mean the database which is created into your design, or FNO data you are saying? I mean,
FNO data.
FNO data. No, I mean, we are trying to keep some data still in the Azure, and that is where I think it is secondary data, I will say. Maybe I'm not 100% clear on that, but if somebody else has understood and can clarify, is good.
Can you elaborate the question, please? Yeah, I'm not able to understand the question as well. Yeah.
So okay, so let's take a scenario where I'm trying to set up a procure to pay between CRM or the sales cycle basically between CRM and Dynamics FNO 365 FNO, and the data which is used, let's say we are processing around 50,000 to 100,000 transactions in a basically scheduled job using Flow or some other basically let's say Flow. So what my question is, when we are fetching the data, if it is outbound from CRM to Dynamics 365, when we are sending the data, is it querying the primary database of the Dynamics 365 FNO, or is it going to the passive database of Dynamics 365, or which is basically a secondary database?
Okay.
For outbound, we don't look at the target database, right? So we only look at source database. So when you say outbound,
source database only I'm talking about. CRM is the source database.
Correct.
Yeah. So does it ping or does it request the data from the source database, or probably we can bring something like data lake where
I understand your question.
That kind of question.
Yes, I understand your question. I go with secondary database in this case because I mean primary database is something I don't think so we can connect. Only it is connecting when it is CRM to FNO scenario. But when we are connecting with other application, then we have to have secondary database possibilities. That is the way I see, if I understood correctly. But Rachit, you can maybe answer better if you have got some view.
So my view was on this. We had similar scenario where we had to integrate like high volume data between CE and FNO. What we did in one of the project was we had a custom table in CE, where we posted all this data, and then we had a web job which is sending it to FNO. So it all depends on how you are sourcing the data from the source system and at what frequency you're calling the target system. And yes, of course, it depends on the business scenario. As Manish said, right, querying the primary data source for high volume integration can lead to blocking of your database if users are also working in the application. So that should not be a best practice.
Yes.
That's my view. Yeah.
So my knowledge is little bit limited on Microsoft Flow. I have not used that much. But does it by default query the secondary database? That's what you're saying, or we need to do this setup somewhere?
No.
Sorry to jump in, but I have an obvious question that we are not considering dual right here.
Yeah, you're right.
Which is obviously out of the box solution for all these high performance data exchange between all Dynamics family members. So I think we should look into dual write for this kind of requirements than Flow or Automate.
I would say data integrator here if it's high volume. Yeah. And asynchronous. Yeah. Then data integrator.
Yeah, asynchronous. That's what I'm talking about. All right.
So dual write is the obvious choice there. Just if it's custom table, then create a custom table both hands. Just set it up in dual write. You are absolutely good to go on every event, and then doesn't matter if it is 100,000 records, even takes hardly 30 seconds.
All right. Okay.
Good.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe Amit, I have shared my email address in the chat window. If you can send your scenario, we can have an offline discussion, or we can reach out to wider experts and get their views.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
And
Cool.
and the other thing is, what is the preference on using data lake in such scenarios? Especially, I have heard that Microsoft is planning to uh, move basically replicate the data from Dynamics 365 FNO to
Yes.
data lake now in
Yes.
the near future.
So frankly saying, I mean, we have a BYOD right now, and basically data lake is the next thing which will be possible. But so far, connector was not available. Now it is available for general use and things like that. So kind of check we are doing right now, because obviously we want to offload a lot of things in data lake if possible, so that we can gain the performance. And through BYOD, it was not fully possible. So I mean, it is quite exciting to look towards data lake and what all can be offloaded there and things like that. But from the design point of view, still we are trying to fit in a way that we can achieve from FNO point of view what performance and gain and things like that. So it's a kind of testing for me right now, which I can say today.
Okay.
ADL still doesn't support incremental push, so still a limitation there. We need to always use full push for integrating the Azure data lake with FinOps. That's the limitation.
Hi, Basant here. Perhaps I can also fill in something here, but I don't want to take it this now, considering the session we have. Can we keep this question for end of the session, and then perhaps we can stay for longer and open to discuss on this data lake side?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I think let's let Manish finish his presentation, and then we can open up.
Yeah, but thank you for the questions, and as suggested by others, let's discuss in the last of the event. So then we go toward also ALM thinking, which is very important, the application lifecycle management. We are very familiar from the dynamic side, but I will just try to relate it. How does it change when it comes to Azure part? So we are looking towards the continuous deployment, wherein basically we just want to move quickly the code from dev to production, but obviously there are steps, and that is what we have to think about. So build, test, and then basically release when there is a check that, okay, how to release. So when we look at FNO scenario, considering the environment, I mean, the way it happens is like this, wherein we have different devs contributing to DevOps, and then it goes to build UAT and production. When it comes to when we are doing the Azure development, there will be a different code, which is right now, if we are using C#, that will be then created in the same way, but then it will be a parallel job, and then it will be basically building its own thing, and then it will be going for testing, and then it will be going to production. So we have a two cycle. So here is the thing, like when we are having FNO releases every month one, we are also looking at some integration we have to achieve while doing the changes in FNO, and some integration we have to do without doing any changes in FNO. So the dependency on FNO is something which is there, and that is what we are doing together release. And when it comes to the independent releases, wherein it is not depending upon any changes in dynamics, then it is any time we can release, and anyway it will not affect and things. But still, to make it proper, it is better to have the release cycle together, obviously, wherein the information and the process and everything remains same. Obviously, the code and things has to be separated, but the process remains same. So that is the way I see the ALM part so far. The way Azure has come in, so we have to think about extra releases and things like that. But still, we try to relate it to FNO releases together and things like that. So this was more from the angle of ALM. But this ALM also has to be supported by documentation, and that is what any CR or any changes which we are doing, basically we are trying to put in this way, wherein the FDD is there to support that what development has to be done, and then basically a TDD is to support what changes are done by developers and they maintain this, and then basically there is a test script, and then there is a decision document, and then basically there is a new feature. Why I am saying the continuous documentation also, it is very important because when we are doing the Azure development and things like that, there is a lot of changes we are doing. And basically, if we don't support that with the proper documentation, the chance of it maintaining becomes more difficult. And then if we are done with the new feature, which is basically common or reusable, then you can also create your solution design document and training document and things like that. So basically this alignment of delivery and documentation, at least I see, is very important, because whatever we are creating has to be something which is reusable and somebody who can see and support and things like that. So it is very important part I would like to highlight. And this continuous documentation is basically with the thought that you should also think about where to store them, because I mean, because of this team side, DevOps, and there are many options, it is very much common that things are spreaded here and there. So common place is very important. Maintain the version same as code. So I mean, documentation has to be seen like a code wherein you are having a version maintenance and things like that, so that it is not lost, because I mean, it is done once and then it is like a, what you said, dead kind of document, which is not helping. It has to be incremental somehow. Ensure the review of doc same as code. So I mean, the review is also very important as we do. 1 second. One second, my daughter came. She wanted her.
No problem. No problem.
Sorry, this is something like you cannot avoid.
That's
So,
fine. All are in same boat.
so
They know how to when to ask their parents when they are in meeting.
yes, absolutely. And this is the time she knows to basically come and ask whatever she wants. Collaboration, treat the document mistake as a bug, involve the documentation in the review process, and uniform document, because I mean, people are writing in different way. That becomes very difficult. So I mean, having the uniformity is very important, and leverage the tool for workflows and things like that. So I mean, this is also, I feel, is very important, and I wanted to bring in this forum that, okay, while you're thinking about development, think about this also, because it is very crucial. The way skill is getting evolved is basically we are learning from X++ to C#, and these tools, I mean, it becomes too easy to be lost. So it's better that as much as we are, what you say, as much as we are properly doing things, then it is better for us and things like that. That's a message. I have not come with a demo, as I said, but one example, what I can tell you that the way we did a transformation, this is more like using Azure function. So I mean, Excel file to be transformed in XML, and wherein, so the example is that wherein with Azure function only you can transform and do these activities. So I mean, Azure function itself is a very powerful tool. But I mean, you can also use, for example, a combination of logic app and other things as well. So I mean, depending upon what you want to achieve, there are multiple possibilities which you can use in your integrations, transformation, and everything. So it is more like an example which I wanted to show you today. So this is what I have prepared. I don't know the time, Richit, if I have taken more or less, I don't know. It is 1:30 now, I think.
Have another 5-10 minutes, so I think we can now open up for Q&A, guys, if you have any questions, feedback. But I think, Manish, you brought a lot of good perspective in how we should think about integrations. Normally what I've seen is people just think about, okay, we call an API, we get a response, but there is so much under the hood which needs to be considered, and which you have shown us so nicely today. So thanks a lot for that. It was really helpful. Okay, anyone wants to open up for Q&A? Feel free to turn on your cameras if you want to. Or maybe,
Venkat here. So I would like to thank you. The session was very good and it is very informative. I have one question with respect to the ALM. So currently, like we were using the build servers, like when we were deploying the code from one environment to the other environment. And I see that we can actually exclude build servers and use Azure pipelines. Can you please shed some light so that it will be helpful for us? Thank you.
Absolutely. I mean, the whole purpose is basically to build the pipeline and do the automation in terms of releases, because I mean, there are multiple releases we are doing, and that becomes only possible when we have the pipeline. So the way we are doing is also the same way. I mean, so far there are some security restriction. That's the reason we have not done, but now we are doing it. So I mean, I'll say that I'll be able to do it in coming days, but we are looking forward for this thing to achieve actually.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Anybody else has some ideas? I would like to hear as well.
If I understand your question, Venkat, is it like how do we use Azure pipelines to do the automation for build and release the package to the environment?
No, currently we are doing the automation using the Azure pipelines, but whenever the artifact is generating, right? So we'll be using the build machine, which is a tier 1 environment in the middle, right? So I was reading in other blogs saying that we can actually exclude the build server, which for creating the packages. And I found that by using some NuGet packages, we can build it. But I'm trying to understand what exactly is the advantage in excluding the build server in creating the artifacts.
So I can add up here. So there are Azure hosted agents which can be used for generating the build. So the difference between the using a regular build machine and Azure hosted build server is that the Azure hosted will not provide you the database sync, because that only give you a container based short-lived NuGet package dependent server, which will just compile your piece of code and give you the package out of it, which can be deployed into any of the environment. Now, the negative side from it is that it will not do the database sync if that fulfills your requirement.
Okay.
Adding to it, it also has a limited number of counts that you can use it with a free hosted pipeline, hosted environment.
That's true.
Got it. Yeah. Thanks so much.
Right. So just to add on, Venkat, companies use it to save cost for build machines. So if you have a tier 1 hosted build VM, you will pay for it. But if it's an Azure hosted pipeline, so I think Kishore or Intiala said that there is a free build minutes you get every month with Azure hosted pipeline. So it also saves you cost and it just compiles the code. So you can't do anything which is based on the server, things like report deployments, database synchronization as mentioned, all these things are skipped. It's pure code compilation and it's based on NuGet packages. So every time Microsoft releases a new version, you have to update your pipeline packages to build on the new package. But that's a summary. We can have a detailed session on this.
Yeah, got you. Thank you so much.
Any other question, guys, or anyone wants to give any feedback?
Well, not a feedback, but certainly a really good session for sure. A lot of perspective, which you rightly said, Rachit. So I really enjoyed this session and the participants over here.
Yep, same here.
Yeah, great session. A lot of new things.
These questions are making me to think a lot, and I look forward for that community, what you said, Rachit. Because I mean, we are taking this journey as a Dynamics consultant, we are taking a journey to Azure. So I mean, all of us needs to be kind of contributing to this so that we can basically move towards this with a confidence and do the things in a good way. So I look forward for more sessions wherein I can come also with my experiences and hear you out as well.
Definitely.
Sure,
I think we should make it some recurrent session on integration topic, because the landscape is evolving so rapidly. New tools are coming and people are using these tools in a different way. So it's always good to hear what others are doing. So yeah, I think we'll create some more recurring sessions on this topic. All right.
Thank you. Hi, Rashid. This is Faisal here.
Hey,
Hey,
Faisal.
Faisal.
Hey, it's been a great show. I just joined the meeting and really knowledgeable, really thoughtful, and integration topic is always the core of the implementation, and there is always a lot to learn. And as Manish did mention about in every session, we always learn from each other. Uh, I really enjoyed this session, Manish. Thank you so much. That was just the comments from my side. I don't have any questions right now, but definitely there were a few questions which I will go through about the. One of the questions were asked about the dual right, but I'll go through that question in details and will reach out to you, Manish.
Yeah, sure. I look forward for that. Thank you.
Thank you.
All
One
right.
point, one point I would
Yeah.
like to tell that there are a couple of new people, those who are coming from a very different background, and also AX 2012. So they also require understanding on the integration. So those who are functional, obviously integration is a very important part in their journey, as well as those who are technical. They should be very they should have very hands-on on integration part. So thank you, Manish, again for the session, which was very wonderful. And I think probably we will ask you more sessions in the coming year, obviously coming months as well. Thank you.
Yeah, happy to share my learnings, and also I want to learn from all of you. So I look forward for that.
Sure. Welcome.
So for this one, Rachit, I think so you need to arrange a table talk now onto the integration topic.
Yeah, I think
I,
that will be more apt. Yeah.
that will be really good, actually. It is a lot of
Yeah,
experience people have and questions. I think it is very interesting to have that kind of table talk, actually.
absolutely. Now, thank you so much, Rachit and Umesh, for organizing all these knowledgeful sessions. It's always pleasure and having so much learning from you guys.
Yep. Thank you. And we also like we keep on learning from you, and the new girls, those who are very teen, very small, very tender age, and they are actually rocking the LinkedIn in Power Platform. So I'm very happy to see that actually the neighbor country is growing, and people are learning, small kids are learning in Dynamics, Microsoft Power Platform, no code. So like it's very good actually.
Oh yeah, it was amazing session by today by Zara and Zenobia. It, like I got really surprised at the way they actually explained the Azure machine learning and everything smoothly. So that was really good.
Yeah, I think they are the most youngest girls who are actually did the certification in your country, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. They are
Correct. Cool. Wonderful.
now
Kudos,
perfect.
kudos. Perfect. Awesome, guys. Thanks a lot for joining. Just one quick thing before we wrap up. I want to announce the upcoming session which we have. I'll quickly share my screen. So just give me a minute. So we have shared it from our company's page on LinkedIn, but we have the next session coming up in couple of weeks from now, which will be focused on vendor onboarding and collaboration capabilities in Dynamics 365 Finance and Operations. And this session will be delivered by Narasimha, and he is a seasoned architect. He will be taking us through this whole journey. So do register us for this event, and we are looking forward to see you. There will be two sessions held on that topic, one on 12th March and another one on 19th March. And if anyone wants to speak up in this group, feel free to reach out to one of the volunteers. With that, thanks everyone for giving us your time on the weekend, and enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Thank
Sure.
you.
Thank you.
You.
Thanks everyone. Bye.
Thank you,
Signing off.
everyone.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Thanks to all. Bye bye.
Thank
Thank
you.
you all. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. So I think Umesh, I'll close the channel now. and then
Sure. Yeah.
we'll connect.
And yeah, sure. Okay. Thank you.
Thanks everyone.
Bye bye.